To begin today, a new Perek, the final Perek of Masechta Bava Basra, the Perek of Get Pashit, which will discuss halachas relating to shtaris. Even though it says the word get, a get is not only a get that's used for divorce, but it's a get refers also to any kind of document that could be used for money matters as well. And Taisus actually points out here that this Perek really should belong in Masechta Gittin, where it discusses halachas related to shtaris. And it just ends up over here, derech agav, because in the previous perek we were discussing a person giving a gift when he's dying, a shchiv mira, or even a healthy person, and it was discussing various different ways how it could be written in a shtar and how we understand what's written. So therefore, this perek was added here to this Masechta. Hence, Masechta Bava Basra becomes another 15 block longer. But really the Masechta, the theme of the Masechta finishes by Mishemes. But here this is an added Perek here to this Masechta. So Mishnah. Get Pashut, an ordinary document, an ordinary shtar, Eidov Mitoichai. The witnesses sign inside the shtar, meaning you write the shtar, all information, and then at the bottom of that, on that side of the paper, on the front side of the paper, the Eidim sign in it. Mekusher, a get that's called a tied get, or a tied document. Now, what is this tied document? There are various opinions in Rishonim how to describe this, but we're going to learn like the Rashbam, that says that a get mekusher is as follows. So I'm going to try to describe it without a picture, but you have a shtar where you write a line, and then you fold over the line on the blank that there is right below that line, and then you write another line, and you fold it over again on the blank that's below that, and then you write another line, and you fold it over again. And then by these folds, when you fold it over, it's sewed, the information that you wrote inside the shtar is sewed closed. So that's why it's called mekusher, because it's sewed closed.
What's visible?
So, one second. Then this is just a second. This is the top part of the get mekusher, and the b'chlal, by every shtar there are two parts to a shtar. We learned this in Masechta Gittin actually. There's the chelik of the shtar that's called the tairif, which is the unique information for this shtar, the names of the people, the time, and so on, that negaya to this specific shtar. And then there's what's called the taifis of the shtar, which is the information that's the same for every single shtar, where you write the language that's used for every shtar. So the information that's the tairif of the shtar, or of the get, which is unique for this get or shtar, that's what's written in the top lines, where you write and fold over on the blank part, write and fold over on the blank part. But then the taifis of it, which is called pashut, that's where you just write it plain, just like a regular, ordinary get, that's written in the bottom without folding over it. And as the Mishnah here is going to say, so what happens is you sew it, and you asked what's visible. The inside, the information that's written is all sewed and covered. It's completely covered. Now, where do the Eidim sign this? They don't sign inside the get, on the written side of the get. Rather, Eidov me'achayrov. It's signed behind, on the back of the get. Okay, now the Gemara is going to explain what's the point of having such a kind of get or shtar written, to sew it and to fold it. What's the point of this?
So the Eidim sign after it's folded and everything?
Yeah, they have to see. They have to see first what it said, but their signatures are going to be on the back. And regarding exactly how their signatures are on the back, there's going to be a machlekes in the Gemara as well. Okay, now as I mentioned, this is the way the Rashbam describes the get mekusher. Other Rishonim disagree. Taisvis learns very similar to the Rashbam, with just one variation. Taisvis says that it wasn't a line and blank, a line and blank. It was written, all the lines one after the other like a regular get, and they folded over one over the other. There was no blank in it. But there are other Rishonim that have a completely different understanding of how this get mekusher works. Okay. Now, Pasho Chekos Ve'edav Machayrov. If you have an ordinary get, and the Eidim are signing on the back, or mekusher, this tied get, Shekos Ve'edav Mitoichai, that the Eidim signed on the front side of it, on the written side of it, Shneim Psulim. So they're going to be puzzled because you're not signing the get the way Chachamim instituted it should be signed. If you write a get or any legal document, a shtar, and you want it to be acceptable, so it has to be written the way the Chachamim said it should be done.
How should it be signed?
Well, as it said, in the get pashut on the inside, on the written side, and on the get mekusher on the other side, on the outside, on the back. There are other reasons that Rishonim give not to confuse between the two. We'll see later in the Gemara that there's other differences between the get pashut and the get makusher, also regarding the date. So they don't want you to confuse the get pashut with the get makusher. So therefore, the signatures have to be according to what this get is. All right. So now when it says here psulim, so it's from the Rashbam here. It seems that it means that it's possible that you can't use it as a shtar that by a loan, for example, to collect from buyers. Right? That's one of the powers of a shtar. If you have a loan that's written in a shtar, then the lender can come with that shtar and even collect the properties that the borrower already sold off. So it's mashma from the Rashbam that you can still use this shtar for the edus that's in it as a proof for the loan, but it doesn't have the halacha of a shtar, which has the power to collect from a lekuchais, because that's only if it's done the way Chachamim designed the shtar. Rab Chanina ben Gamliel says that mekusher shekos ve'edav mitoichai, this tide get that the edim are signed on the inside, on the written side of it, kosher. It's still going to be kosher. Mipnei sheyachol asaysei pashat, because you could untie it and turn it into a regular shtar. So therefore, if it's signed inside, so then you could still make it kosher. Just make it into an ordinary shtar. And so this is the source that Taisva says that we must say that this get kosher is not written one line and then blank and another line and then blank, because here it says that you can turn it into an ordinary shtar, which means that really the writing of the shtar is the same as a ordinary shtar. It's just that you fold over and you tie it, so therefore you could untie it and turn it to an ordinary shtar.
Don't you need to either some things need makusha, some things need.
We'll see. Well, let's see in the Gemara. We'll see. Well, I'll discuss that.
According to this,
yeah.
You can do it either way.
Okay, let's see in the Gemara. Rab Shimon ben Gamliel says, "Hakoil keminig hamedina." We always follow whatever the custom in the country is, and the Gemara will explain exactly what Rab Shimon ben Gamliel is saying. Is he arguing? We'll see. Now, another halacha: get pashot edav b'shnayim. When it comes to an ordinary get, how many witnesses does it have? 2. As always, edim 2. But by a tied get, b'shleisha, you need to have at least 3. You could have more, but you could have at least 3 witnesses. Now, pashat shekasav by eid echad, an ordinary shtar or get that is only signed by 1 eid. Shekasav by shnayim, or a tied shtar or get that is signed by only 2 eidim. Shnayim psulim. Both of these are going to be pasul. Okay, which will also be discussed in the Gemara. It says here with 1 aid the shtar is pasul. It's obvious. The whole power of a shtar is with aidim. What's the chiddush here that with 1 aid it's pasul? We'll see. The Gemara will explain this as well. Okay, but first the Gemara begins with the source of this very unique kind of a shtar that's tied. What's the source of this? It says the Gemara mili. From where do we know this? That there's 2 types of shtaris: the ordinary shtar and the tied shtar. It's based on the language of the pasuk where it says, and this is a nevuah to Yirmiyah before the destruction of the first Beis Hamikdash, and he was told that the Beis Hamikdash is going to be destroyed, but he tells Yidden that even after it's going to be destroyed and they're going to be expelled from Eretz Yisrael, they're going to come back eventually, and therefore Sadis Bakesef Yiknu, they should buy fields with money, and v'kosav b'sefer v'chosam, and they should write in a document, and they should have it signed, and v'hoid edim, and they should have witnesses on this, so they can prove that this is their properties when they come back to Eretz Yisrael. So the Gemara darshans this pasuk as follows: Sadis b'kesef yiknu v'kosav b'sefer. First it says buy properties and write it in a sefer. So it's referring to a document as a sefer. So what does that expression mean? Zepashet. That's the ordinary shtar. Just like a sefer, you don't write and tie it closed. Adarabah, it's made to be open to read from. So the ordinary shtar is what the first part of the pasuk is talking about when it says sefer. And then when it adds v'chosum, why does it have to say chosum? It's obvious. You understand that a shtar has to be written and signed. Chosum means it's a different. This is the second kind of a shtar. Zeh mekosher. This refers to the tied shtar. Chosum means that it's actually closed and tied. It doesn't mean signatures. It means that it's tied and closed. And then the pasuk goes on to say that you should have witnesses on it. V'ho'ed, it says v'ho'ed edim. Why does it have to say this double lashon, or it's saying both v'ho'ed and then edim? V'ho'ed means shnayim. Ho'ed means 2 witnesses. This is based on the Gemara in the beginning of Saita, where it says anytime the Torah uses the term aid, even if it's a singular term, but it means 2. So here when it says v'ho'ed, it means that's the ordinary shtar where you have 2 edim signed. And then when it says edim, shloisha. That's adding another aid, an additional aid. That's for the tied star, where you have to have at least 3 eidim signed in it. So so it says two eidim, then it says 3 eidim. Shnayim lepashit, 2 eidim is for the ordinary star, and shloisha lemakusher, and 3 eidim is for the tied star. We see here in the pasuk that sometimes you require 2 eidim and sometimes 3. Maybe the opposite should be true, that you should have to have 3 for ordinary star and 2 for the tied star. Says the Gemara, no, because the tied star has all these, it's folded at least 3 times, and maybe even more, and it's then tied closed. So each fold and each time that it's sewed closed, nisrabe beidov, he needs also more edim. As we'll see in each one of them, where you fold it closed and the behind and the back of the star, that's where the edim sign. This is one source. Another source the Gemara brings, this is also here in the Nevuah of Yirmiyah, where he speaks about buying properties in that time. So the pasuk, Rafram says, Mehacha. The source is from this pasuk, where it says, Ve'ekach a sefer amikne. Yirmiyah says, and I took the sefer, which is a document of the acquisition of a property, ve'esachosum, and what was closed, which literally would mean what was signed, hamitzveh v'hachukim ve'esagoloi, the mitzvah and the laws and what's open. So what is all the expressions that this pasuk is speaking about? So here he says, here we see that there's 2 kinds of documents. First, when it says that there's a document that for the acquisition of the property, and it refers to it as a sefer, zepashet. That's the ordinary star that's written like an open sefer, written on a scroll. As a chasum, then when it says I took what was chasum, zemakusher, that refers to another star. That refers to the tied star that's sealed and closed. Then when it says Vesagoloi, Ze Poshut Shebemakusher. When it says Goloi, that's also referring to the sealed and tied star. But as I mentioned before, which part of the star is tied? Only the top part, where you write the tairif, the unique information for this star. But then there's the Poshut Shebemakusher, which is the bottom of it, where there's the ordinary nusach that you write in a get or on a star. That's not unique to this star. That's not folded over. That's not closed, and that's what the pasuk means when it uses the term Goloi. Then the pasuk says,
does it have a certain amount, like 2 times it comes out or 3 times?
I'm not sure, but there's a part in the bottom that remains.
No, the tied one. How many times is it tied and tied?
At least 3 times, maybe even more. Yeah. Ha-mitzvah v'ha-chukim. Then when it says in the pasuk mitzvah and chukim, what are these 2 expressions? Elu dvarim. This is referring to the halachis that are shebein pashat l'mekusher, where there's a difference in how the ordinary star is written and the tied star. HaKetzad, what is the difference between them? Zeh eid of shnayim. The ordinary star needs 2 witnesses. Zeh eid of shloisha. And the tied star needs 3. And also, Zeh eid of mitoichai, the ordinary star, the edim sign inside and the written part of the star. Zeh eid of ma'chayrov, and the tied star, the edim sign and the back of it. Again, the Gemara explains, why wouldn't I say the opposite regarding the number of edim that you need? Maybe by the ordinary star you should need 3. Says the Gemara, because you're tying it and you're sewing it closed more times, so therefore nisrabe be'edov, therefore it also needs more edim for it. You need at least 3 edim, unlike the regular star that needs only 2 edim.
Yeah, but this passage doesn't talk about edim. The second.
It doesn't clearly spell out edim, correct? But it says mitzvah and chukim, and the Gemara says the mitzvah and the chukim refers to the difference in the halachas between the 2 types of shtaris, which refers to the edim, the number of edim, and where the edim sign as well. A third source the Gemara brings. Rami bar Yecheskel Amar Mehacha. The source is here based on, the Gemara is going to bring a source for that sometimes there's 2 edim, sometimes there's 3. So there's 2 types of documents. It says in the Torah, by Eidos, al pishnayim edim, or al pishloisha edim, yakum davar. That you establish a fact with witnesses, 2 edim or 3. Now, so the question is, why does the pasuk have to speak about 3? If the pasuk says that 2 edim could establish a fact, and we trust them, why does the Torah have to say 3 edim? So the answer is to tell you that there's 2 types of documents. Shnayim is lapasha, 2 for a regular star, and shloisha l'mekusha, and 3 edim for this tied star. Again, the Gemara says, why wouldn't I say the opposite? And the answer is, since there's more ties, that it's tied closed, so it's the tied star that has at least 3 edim in it.
Rashi says why.
Huh?
Rashi says why.
Rashbam, you mean?
Chumash, Rashi says why.
Oh, 1 second. No, so the Gemara here is going to ask on this. All these psukim that are just brought as a source for these 2 types of shtaris, the regular star and the tied star, the Gemara is going to ask that There's a different way of learning all these psukim, and it's not a source for this. All these psukim, the three different psukim we brought here as a source, that they are coming to teach us here this concept of two different kinds of documents. Each one of these psukim is saying something different. Look at the Tanya. So first the Gemara brings, as it says in a Braise, Sodes b'kesav yiknu v'kosav b'seifa v'chosum. This pasuk where Yirmiyah is telling the Yidden then buy properties, write it in a star, and seal it. What was he talking about here? It's coming to teach us this halacha of two types of shtaris? Not at all. He's just giving Yidden good advice that they're going to be expelled from Eretz Yisrael, but they should buy properties and document it because they're going to come back after 70 years, and then they should be able to prove that they bought these properties. And it actually says there in the continuation of the pasuk that you should take these documents and put it in a safe place, put it in an earthenware flask or whatever it is to keep it safe, so that when they come back to Eretz Yisrael, they'll have proof of this. So he's giving them good advice how to be able to have a document with a signature, and it should be closed and it should be put away. So it's not a source for this concept of two kinds of documents. And similar, the pasuk of Ekach, a Sefer, a Mikneh, when it speaks about Yirmiyah says that I had the Sefer, that which is a star for the acquisition of a property, Hachi Ava Maisa. So he's saying over there the story, the way it happened, but it's not coming to teach a halacha. And also the pasuk in Chumash, Al Pishnayim Edim, Al Pishloish Edim. When the pasuk says it is 2 Edim or 3 Edim, and the question is, why does it have to say 3 if it already says 2? So there's already a Mishnah in Masechta Malkus that says why you have to have these two things. Lahakish Shloisha L'Shnayim. We compare 3 Edim to 2 Edim, and this is actually Beplukte, the Rav Akiva, the Rabbanon, there in the Mishnah. In the end of the first perek of Masechta Makos, it's a machlokes of Rabbi Akiva and Rabbanan what exactly the limud is. One is to say regarding Edim Zaymimin, that when you have the Edim that come and say that the first Edim were liars, Imanu or Yisam and Makum Plaini, that even 2 can be Mazim 3. You may think maybe 2 could only be Mazim 2. No, even 2 could be Mazim a group of 3. That's according to the Rabbanan, I believe. And according to Rabbi Akiva, it's coming to say the Kasher Zomam, that the punishment of Kasher Zomam goes on the whole group, on all 3. The Mishnah already says what we use the Shnayim and Shloisha for to compare them to each other. So it's not a source for the two kinds of documents we're talking about here. So Ella, therefore the Gemara concludes, Mekusher Midrabanan. This whole entire existence of this entire document, Chachamim are the ones that instituted this. And Kroi Asmachta Ba'alma, the psukim that we quoted before, Chachamim relied on these psukim just as a remez or as a source for it, but it's not really a proper source. Chachamim instituted this concept of this get mekusher. Now, the time in my takin rabbanan mekusher. Why did Chachamim institute the get mekusher? It's because Asre the kahane havu. There was a place where the people that were living there were all Kainim. And Vahava Kapti Tuve. And they were very, what's the word for Kapti there in English? They were very, They took offense easily, okay? And therefore what happened is, Omegarshi Nishayo. And then they got into a quarrel with their wife and they would divorce her. And now, by a Kohen, after he divorces his wife, he can't remarry her. He can't go back in it. A Kohen can't marry a Grusha. So then they would be in a problem. So by a regular Yid, by Yisrael, even if a person does a rash thing and he divorces his wife, but he could always remarry her if he wants. So therefore, for this, Va'avdi Rabbanan Tekanta, the Rabbanan instituted that when a Kohen divorces his wife, he should use this kind of get that has to be written and tied, and it's more complicated with more witnesses. So Ada Hachi V'Hachi, until this kind of a get will be prepared, Meis V'Daite, Datayu, he'll be able to calm down and he won't divorce his wife. That's why Chachamim instituted this. So it says in the Farshim related to this that the Kainim are kapti, they take offense very easily. On one hand it says we say that the Kainim bench Yidin ba'ava, with love, with chesed, Kain isha chesed. But it does say though that on the other hand they have this Indian of Kepeda because of the status that these Kainim had. That they are on a higher level, and mitzad their yichos, whatever it is, mitzad the status of the Kainim, so they also had this Indian of Kepeda that because of their stature. And therefore this brought Chachamim to institute this. So the Gemara says, we understand why we find this tied get regarding the taka get for divorce. But why was this also used regarding any kind of documents, even for a sale of a property or even a loan, just as a proof for a loan? It was also used, this kind of document. So the answer is, in order that there shouldn't be a distinction between a regular shtar and a get, that you should see that this is a kosher kind of a document, so therefore they said that it could be used also regarding money matters as well. Yeah, but now here, Taisus points out that what happened Bisman Hazeh, when a Kohen divorces, does he have to use this kind of a get or not? So Taisus over here says, first of all, that we're not bucky exactly how to make this get makusher. I mentioned before that there's various opinions in Rishonim exactly how this was done. Even in the time of the Rishonim already, this get makusher was not used. And some even say that even Bisman Gemara and even Bisman Tanoim, not all Amiroim and Tanoim knew exactly how to make this get makusher. So even in the Zman of the Rishonim, they weren't buckying this anymore, so that it was not made anymore. Another thing Taisus says over here, that this get makusher, when it says here that they instituted it for the Kainim, it wasn't a chiyuv that the Kainim must be megarish dafka with such a kind of get. It was an option. When the Bezdin saw that in a situation where they wanted to give the Kayin time to calm down and think over what he's doing, so this get makusher was used, but it wasn't the obligation that it has to be used. Going back to the point that we spoke about in the Mishnah, that a get makusher could then become a get poshet if you untie it. So therefore, Bisman Hazeh, it's not used anymore. That's what Taisa says over here.
But in Zman Gemara, the get makusha was only used for a gerushin.
Yeah, but then the Gemara says that's l'chatchila how it was instituted, but then it became also something that was used even regarding a regular shtar. If for whatever reason you want to use this kind of shtar, it could be used for a regular shtar for money as well. Okay, the next piece of Gemara is going to discuss the signatures of the Eidim. It's a piece that goes all the way down in the next blot, so Mr. Shem will leave it for tomorrow, the signatures.